this is the killer part. This is the killer part. This is another win for NIO's margins long term. Guys, we have the biggest news of the year, man. Holy moly. Nobody saw this coming. Oh my God, this is massive. So, you know that little the little sign at the back of every NIO? Most people take it off, but it says 江淮汽车, which is made by JAC. Well, a lot of people, including my wife, think it's very low. It's not that high end. And especially when you're trying to make a luxury brand like NIO, you know, everything's premium, but then you have that thing on it, you know, that really pulls everything down. And my wife also really does not like the fact that, you know, this car has that thing on it. We'll come back to this in a bit, but what just happened? Zhenghua JAC plans to transfer the assets of NIO factory to NIO. Holy moly, man. This is some big news that just broke last night evening through a public filing. And there's two reports to look at. First one, according to people familiar with the matter, the two factories involved in the transfer of Zhenghua Automobile's assets are actually the two factories that Zhenghua and NIO cooperated. Factory number 1, Zhenghua NIO Advanced Manufacturing Base, and NIO's second Advanced Manufacturing Base. So this is namely F1 and F2 factory. Cool. In regard, the reporter also asked NIO for verification as soon as possible. The company has confirmed that the action will not affect the company's next production and operation activities. The relevant person in charge of NIO responded. So it is confirmed. This is very nice. And then this other report details a little bit more about how this is going to go through. So Zhenghua Automobile announced on the evening of October 19th that the company intends to transfer some assets through public listing involving the inventory of the factories of the passenger car company, fixed assets, construction in progress, the right to use houses and buildings, and the structure and equipment assets of the Xinqiao factory of the passenger car company NIO. So the entire transaction cost is going to be 4.488 billion RMB, or roughly 614.7 million US dollars, which apparently, according to the news report, is 6.79% of value gained for JAC. So JAC earned 6.79% from this transaction. Now, what does it all mean for NIO and you guys? Well, first of all, it just means that you guys have a big asset now. The factories are now an asset on the books, which is very, very nice. The cash, yes, there's some cash spent, but I think this is well worth it. And also, the most important part is the fact that you no longer have to have that JC badge on the back of the car, because that, to be honest, pulls down the brand status. And you got to understand, a lot of people here in China, especially the haters, really hate NIO for that badge. They just say, oh my God, this car is made by a low-tier brand that makes trucks. And, you know, you're not going to get a good car because of that, which, you know, I understand their point, but this is very shallow understanding. I actually think working with JC has been tremendously beneficial, because they got a lot of expertise and experience from JAC, and that allowed them to make cars that had a very good quality. All right, like for example, my car, my NIO EC6 has no problems, nothing. All right, just some minor problems here and there, but overall, in general, with NIOs, you don't see a lot of problems. So this really helps to get a lot of the haters in China to shut the F up, basically. You can no longer pull the card that, you know, this is made by a truck factory kind of card. A lot of NIO owners here in China are saying, finally, because NIO doesn't have their own manufacturing license. Now, in essence, they sort of do, all right? They sort of pretty much do have their own manufacturing license through this. And what's really important for you guys, and this is the killer part, before every single vehicle produced, you had to pay a fixed amount of money to JAC, because of course JAC built the factory. They invested so much money into the factory, and you have to pay them for every vehicle that you make. Obviously that hurts margin. And also, because of working with JAC, NIO had to basically set a quota. Even if they can't sell that many cars, they have to still produce them. There's no choice because, JAC built a factory. They have to see a return on their investment. They can't just be like, I build a factory and you don't build cars. No, you have to build however many cars that we agreed upon. So that really puts NIO in the back seat. They kind of hindered here, all right? They got to produce cars even if they don't sell, which causes the problem of having a lot of inventory, and then you have to clear out the inventory and run promos, and that just hurts margins, and everything is just a mess. But with this, now you don't have to pay JAC for every vehicle sold, right? You have control over that, increase in margins, and then B, also, you don't have to overproduce cars that you don't need. All right, you can control the amount of the pace of the production of the cars. For example, if this car isn't selling that well, all right, I'll produce less of it. This is another win for NIO's margins long term. Now, the flip side of this is now that NIO has to really take quality control in their own hands. All right, they gotta control everything in their own hands. It's easier to inspect other people's work. It's very hard to make yourself be responsible for very good work, be able to do it, and hold yourself to those standards. All right. So now the big challenge for NIO is to really have their quality control team really get more strict and essentially take the wisdom and the valuable information that they learned while working with JAC, control everything under their own hands. Now, the thing is, in regards to the factory workers, most of the workers are NIO. Some of the management inside the factory are JAC. It's very unclear what's going to happen to them. Perhaps, maybe, potentially, they're just going to get a contract job with NIO and just keep their job. That's probably what's going to happen because, as you can see, it does not affect the company's production and activities. So obviously nobody's going to get laid off, nothing like that. It's probably that they're just going to change their boss or something like that. Now, I remember a while back, and this was quite a long time ago, about two and a half years ago when I talked with the NIO manager. It was very old information. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was something like around 10,000 RMB per vehicle that they had to pay JAC, which is a lot. That's like almost like 6 or 7% of each vehicle you got to pay to JAC. So this could translate to a vehicle margin increase of maybe like 4 or 5%, maybe. All right. And of course, we got to salute NIO for this great move. Once again, identifying areas where they could cut costs, whether it's making their own things in-house or this, and improving margins for shareholders and potentially even coming out with cheaper products to better compete in this price war. So the benefit is really two-pronged, all right? Better margins and also better image. Better image throughout China. People can no longer say, hey, that car is made by JAC. No. So personally, I'm very happy that this came through. I think this deal is a win-win for everybody. And of course, in the long run, this was bound to happen eventually. I mean, like, you can't just let someone else produce your things or help you produce your things. You got to make it yourself, essentially. And, coincidentally, on the NIO app, this is what they posted today. That they talked a bit more about their factory, how advanced their factory is, 90 kilometers of high-tech wiring and network stuff, lots of automation, very, very advanced stuff, so much robots and everything, very advanced engineers working on the factory line, etc., etc. I mean, this is incredible. Of course. And then they also have like robots for inspection and they have a very advanced factory. Back in early 2019, 2018-ish, a lot of people were questioning, even NIO employees inside the company were questioning, why is NIO working with JAC? Can they really produce a good car? And William Lee said, their factories are even more advanced than Porsche's factory because Porsche still uses a lot of human labor and that's prone to error. NIO's factories are really, really advanced. And I actually agree with them. But right now, you know, that factory is fully owned by NIO pretty much. So this is very nice. Were you surprised by this news? Did you like this news? Let me know in the comments. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.